officials reportedly trespassed on a Virginia base that is home to Special Operations Forces, adding to tensions between Washington and Beijing. A soccer game was pulled off Chinese airwaves after a star player criticized China for its treatment of Muslim minorities. A U.S. official visits South Korea amid heightening tensions on the Korean peninsula. Reactions today from Washington and New Jersey after news broke this weekend that Democratic New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew is planning to switch parties. He's been the most vocal Democrat against impeaching President Trump.
Congressman Jeff Van Drew, a Democrat, is likely switching parties over his promise to vote against impeachment. After meeting with Trump on Friday, he told staff over the weekend about his plans.
Assuming he does what everyone is signaling, he's putting politics over the Constitution. I think it's that simple.
New Jersey State Senate President Steve Sweeney called his switch a betrayal. He vowed to get him out of office in November if he joins Republicans. Van Drew managed to flip New Jersey's 2nd district for Democrats in last year's midterms. His district voted for Trump in the 2016 election and was represented by a Republican before him. House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler said he's reacting to public polling that shows he can't get renominated. According to The Hill, an internal poll showed 58% of Democrats wanted to nominate someone else, while only 28% said Van Drew should be renominated. He's one of 2 House Democrats who voted against the resolution on the impeachment process. Trump on Twitter said Sunday Van Drew switching parties would be big. The House is expected to vote on articles of impeachment this week.
Former FBI Director James Comey admitted that he made mistakes in the Russia probe. This comes after a report last week highlighting major errors the agency made during the investigation.
James Comey admitting on Fox News Sunday that he was overconfident in the Russia probe. He said he's responsible and that it's important that a leader be accountable and transparent. A Justice Department internal watchdog looked into how the Russia probe was started. The Russia probe looked into whether the Trump campaign or unknowingly with Russia to interfere in the 2016 election. Last week, the watchdog released a report that found 17 serious errors on an application to a court, one that grants permission to spy on American citizens. The watchdog also said that the FBI was justified in starting the investigation. President Trump hinted that Comey should face prison time for what he did. He wrote on Sunday that, "So now Comey's admitting he was wrong," adding, "What are the consequences for his unlawful conduct? Could it be years in jail?" Trump has called Comey a crooked cop and suggested before that he should face justice for allowing the FBI to spy on members of his campaign.
A new report says 2 Chinese embassy officials were secretly expelled by the U.S. government for driving onto a sensitive military base in Virginia in September.
According to New York Times reports, U.S. officials believe that at least one of the officials was an intelligence officer operating under diplomatic cover. The group, which included the officials' wives, drove through an entry checkpoint on the military base in Norfolk despite being denied permission and reportedly evaded military personnel that pursued them. They stopped driving only after fire trucks blocked their path, later claiming that they were lost. It appears to be the first time in more than 30 years that diplomats have been expelled over suspected espionage. The U.S. administration in recent years has stepped up efforts to combat concerns about suspected spying by Beijing. A law enforcement official familiar with the episode confirmed that the account is accurate.
Boeing considers temporarily stopping production of the 737 MAX. The company is struggling to convince regulators the plane is safe after 2 deadly crashes.
Boeing is considering whether to reduce or halt production of its 737 MAX planes. The jet's safety remains controversial after 2 crashes killed hundreds and led to the plane's worldwide grounding in March.
So when Boeing came to us and they said it's pilots, inexperienced pilots, you were lying to us as well.
Senator, if I could try to respond to your question. First of all, the premise that we would lie or conceal is just not consistent with our values.
The Seattle Times reported that top management wants to temporarily suspend production of the MAX planes, but Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg has expressed confidence in the new safety upgrades made to the plane since its grounding.
And the software update, we have extraordinary confidence in. As I said, we've flown 700 test flights with that software, dozens and dozens of simulations with customers.
Boeing met with the Federal Aviation Administration in a failed effort to unground the plane this month. The FAA said the 737 MAX would not be cleared to fly before 2020.
The first half of a major winter storm slammed parts of central Kansas yesterday, dumping as much as 9 inches of snow in some areas, leading to dozens of car crashes across the region. At least one person died in a morning wreck in Wichita due to freezing rain that reached over 1/10 of an inch before noon. More snow is expected to move in overnight, with additional snow expected to accumulate across south central Kansas, including the greater Wichita area. In talks in Seoul today, South Korea and U.S. officials reconfirmed their shared intention to achieve peace on the Korean peninsula.
A representative for North Korea met Korean counterpart in Seoul on Monday.
한미는 까지 해왔던 거 마찬가지로
Korea and the U.S. have agreed to continue making efforts under close for complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula and establishment.
Lee said the United States' willingness to resolve the issue of denuclearization through diplomacy and talks remains unchanged. Later on, Biden is paying a 3-day visit to South Korea. Biden's visit comes amid heightening tensions on the Korean peninsula after North Korea recently conducted what experts view as missile engine tests.
The U.S. Special Envoy for North Korea today urged Pyongyang to restart talks.
The U.S. Special Envoy for North Korea urged Pyongyang to return to nuclear talks on Monday. On a visit to the South, Stephen Biegun made a direct appeal to the North.
It is time for us to do our jobs. Let's get this done. We are here, and you know how to reach us.
Biegun also brushed off a year-end deadline set by leader Kim Jong-un. Kim has said the North will take a, quote, new path if Washington fails to soften its stance before then.
On this point, let me be absolutely clear. The United States does not have a deadline. We have a goal: to fulfill the commitments the two leaders made during their historic summit meeting in Singapore.
But the North's state media has recently said Washington has nothing to offer if talks restart. And tension has risen in recent weeks as Pyongyang has conducted a series of weapons tests and a war of words with U.S. President Donald Trump. This flare-up has sparked fears of a return to earlier cycles of escalation between the two sides. Trump and Kim have met 3 times since last year to negotiate an end to Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs, but with little progress. On Sunday, North Korea said it carried out another, quote, crucial test at a satellite launch site, the second test there in a week. It's a site U.S. officials once said North Korea had promised to close. Experts said tests like this could help the country build more reliable intercontinental ballistic missiles, weapons capable of reaching the United States.
China's state broadcaster CCTV removed a soccer team Arsenal's Premier League game against Manchester City from its broadcast schedule on Sunday after one of the players criticized on social media the Communist Party's treatment of an ethnic minority group.
A star player for the Arsenal soccer club seems to have stirred up a storm in China. Off-pitch midfielder Mesut Ozil criticised the country's policy towards its Muslim Uyghur minority over the weekend. A day later, Chinese state TV pulled coverage of Arsenal's Premier League game against Manchester City. Ozil had posted on Instagram in support of Uyghurs. He called them mujahids who resist torture and criticised both Beijing crackdown and the silence of Muslims in response. Arsenal immediately tried to distance itself from the comments. The club's official account on Chinese social media ran a statement that Arsenal always adheres to the principle of not being involved in politics. But in Turkey, the post was met with enthusiasm. Hours later in Istanbul, posters with Ozil's photo appeared at a rally against China. Many at the protest were members of the local Uyghur community, calling out Beijing's policy in Xinjiang, clampdown that's led to detention camps for Muslims. China says the camps are for vocational training and describes detainees as students. United Nations experts say at least between 1 million and 2 million people are held in harsh conditions in the region. They also accuse China of very significant human rights abuses against Uyghurs and other minorities. Beijing has repeatedly denied mistreatment of Uyghurs and calls its actions an anti-terrorism campaign.
The U.S. Defense Secretary today visited the location of the World War II Battle of the Bulge. It is the 75th anniversary of the battle, which saw 10,000 lives lost in the woods of Bastogne, Belgium.
U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper is in Belgium, attending commemorations for the anniversary of the sealed the defeat of Nazi Germany. On Monday, Esper toured the woods of Bastogne, a key location in the Battle of the Bulge during World War II. U.S. presented the details of what happened during the month. The battle took place at dawn on December 6, 1944. 200 German soldiers started the unexpected breakthrough in the den. Spoke in admiration of those who served in the epic battle.
The victory of the Battle of the Bulge is a testament to the fortitude and heroism of the American soldier.
U.S. deaths counted well over 10,000, as did those of Germany, in what was one of the war's bloodiest battles.
A handful of powerful countries resisted pressure yesterday to ramp up efforts to combat climate change as a UN climate summit came to a delayed close. The summit talks in Madrid were viewed as a test of governments' collective will for more aggressive cuts to greenhouse gas emissions. But the conference, in its concluding draft, endorsed only a modest declaration on what it called the urgent need to close the gap between existing emissions pledges and the temperature goals of the 2015 Paris Climate Pact. Brazil, China, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and the U.S. had led resistance to more action. A strong earthquake killed, some were injured and trapped in buildings. It is the latest in a series of tremors to strike the Philippines in recent months.
The magnitude 6.8 quake was centered 38 miles southwest of the coastal city Davao in Mindanao Island. Cities and provinces in the region have been battered by deadly in recent years. At least 5 people have died in Sunday's quake. Authorities said that a 3-story building collapsed while people were inside in the town of Padada. A local resident saw the building fall and people running outside. Army troops, police, firefighters, and volunteers, armed with sound and motion detectors, pulled out 2 bodies and located a 3rd one in the rubble. Distraught relatives waited in a cordoned area as rescuers worked overnight in search of survivors. Officials said a total of 84 people were injured in the quake. The region was shaken by 4 powerful quakes in October and November.
Police in Hong Kong fired tear gas in clashes with pro-democracy protesters on Sunday. It came just ahead of a key meeting between Hong Kong and Chinese Communist Party leaders, in which Beijing voiced its support for the Hong Kong administration.
Protests in Hong Kong flared up again over the weekend, ahead of a key meeting between leader Carrie Lam and her political masters in Beijing. Small groups of demonstrators on Sunday targeted malls crowded with holiday shoppers. Battalions of riot police responded with pepper spray and aggressive crowd control, making arrests. The anti-government movement had simmered down following district-level elections. The polls were a pro-democracy victory, with pro-establishment candidates losing out in large numbers. But for many protesters, it's not enough. They're determined to keep up their demands for greater freedoms. In a different part of the city, a different kind of demonstration. Songs and flowers to remember a protester who fell to his death 6 months ago after holding up a banner.
Those who have been killed or wounded remind us that we must not give up on the path to democracy.
The anti-government movement has done real damage to Hong Kong's economy. This weekend, the city's international airport reported it had handled over just 5 million passengers in November, the biggest fall in a decade.
Financial information provider Refinitiv has been found to have blocked over 200 stories about ongoing Hong Kong protests from news outlet Reuters. More than 200 Reuters stories Hong Kong protests were blocked since August under pressure from the Chinese regime. Other articles that could paint Beijing in a bad light also documents from the company that Refinitiv installed an automated filtering system to facilitate the censoring. The process included attaching a new code to some China stories called restricted news. Amid intensifying censorship in China in recent years, Refinitiv has joined a lengthening list of companies complying with Beijing's demands. And a Japanese teacher has been giving out free hand-drip coffee in Hong Kong to support Hong Kongers' fight for democracy and freedom.
Masanori Nishikawa is from Hyogo, Japan. He has been serving up cups of coffee for a week. On his bicycle, the sign in Chinese reads, "Knowing the recent situation in Hong Kong breaks my heart. I brought Hong Kong people coffee from Japan." Nishikawa hopes to bring a bit of warmth and happiness to locals who have faced month-long protest.
When I thought about what I can do for Hong Kong people, I thought that if I make coffee here, everyone might be glad to receive it, so that's why I came here.
In return, people gave Nishikawa thank you cards, hugs, and asked to take photos with him. Someone who's not from Hong Kong has come all the way here to give out warm cups of coffee. I think for a lot of people, it's not just about getting a cup of coffee, it's about feeling his sincerity and warmth. Nishikawa is set to leave Hong Kong for Japan Monday night.
4 Chinese miners were killed and 14 others remain missing after a coal mine flooded in southwest China. The accident happened yesterday afternoon in Gongxiang County in Sichuan Province. As of Sunday morning, rescuers had discovered 14 trapped miners. According to the local authority, 16 different types of submersible pumps were in operation at the site to drain the area. And up next, 2 bodies are still missing after a New Zealand volcano erupted. Rescuers are searching murky waters off a volcanic island. More on that when we return.
Oh, the show's phenomenal. This is the best ever.
The way I look at Shen Yun is this heavenly experience. I have never seen in my life so many amazing dancers, so many amazing and beautiful costumes.
Everything in the movements, in the smile, in the emotion, they could bring grace. I was taking my dish, I was really impressed.
The back extension, the leg extension, the rotation, absolute perfection. I just have chills, can you tell?
Well, the music is really extraordinary.
It sounded like it was pre-recorded, like it was so perfect. And I looked down and I could see all the orchestra playing. It was hard to believe it was actual live music. It was so perfect.
I like how it's not just beautiful with the colors and the music, but also it's funny because there's some storytelling elements to it.
I love every moment, especially the message of the Chinese ancient culture.
There's no other company in the United States that does this.
My heart was touched tonight. And every time I see actors perform with grace and dignity like that, it's a spiritual experience in itself.
I see God. I see the spirit of love and peace and the way that you would want the universe to be.
The energy that I got from watching is that internal spirit that I think that we all have that comes from our Creator. And I could feel that in my heart and in my soul.
I would tell my friends to see Shen Yun because it is life-changing. And you'll walk away feeling positive and like you want to help the world be a better place.
Everyone should see something so pretty.
Our kids are 6 and 8 years old, and they enjoyed it and would like to come back to see it again.
I think it's for all people, and everyone needs to see it. Absolutely everyone.
And in New Zealand, recovery teams returned to the volcanic White Island on Sunday, but were unable to locate 2 remaining bodies in their search.
Recovery teams have been unable to locate the final 2 bodies missing 6 days after a volcanic eruption on New Zealand's White Island. Clad in hazmat suits, 8 police search and rescue staff were deployed for 75 minutes on Sunday to search an area where their information suggested 1 body possibly remained. New Zealand's Deputy Police Commissioner Mike Clement told reporters the search was unsuccessful.
But I can say that we've found no further bodies in that area. I'd said earlier that there was 1 body in the sea and we are searching for that body. There's every chance that the second body that we are also searching for is also in the sea.
But authorities are refusing to give up hope.
We don't give up easily. There's a whole lot of disappointed people back behind me with regard to what we tried to do in the interests of returning people to loved ones. So they'll go and have a bit of a debrief, but I tell you what, they'll be back up in no time in terms of their motivation to get the job done.
On Saturday, divers faced contaminated waters and low visibility as they searched the waters surrounding the volcanic island and were unable to locate either of the missing persons. 6 bodies were successfully retrieved from the island on Friday by a New Zealand military team and taken to the mainland for disaster victim identification. The death toll from the eruption rose to 16 on Sunday as one of those rescued from the island died in hospital. But there are fears this number may rise further as more than 24 people are still hospitalised across New Zealand and Australia, most with severe burns.
Despite a fierce crackdown by security forces in Lebanon, hundreds of people returned to demonstrate in Lebanon's capital city yesterday. Dozens were injured in clashes.
The second night of street clashes, tear gas engulfed central Beirut as security forces chased protesters near Lebanon's parliament. Demonstrators were angry at corruption among the political elite and blaming the government for the country's worst economic crisis in decades.
This is how it started and this is how we should continue. We would not leave until they submit to our demands.
Lebanon's internal security force issued a warning on Twitter for people to clear the streets, but protesters said they're not going anywhere.
We have to agree on something. I'm here, I've got nothing to lose. I'm ready to sacrifice my life for the revolution so that Lebanon can be a real homeland.
Foreign donors have offered help with Lebanon's economic troubles, but only after there is a cabinet in place. The protest movement pushed Saad al-Harari to resign as prime minister back in October, but he's now expected to be named for the job again at formal consultations. So far, the country's main parties haven't been able to agree on forming a new government. This means aid may still be a ways off, even as protesters get ready to dig in for more.
Coming up, festive spirits abound at a large Christmas market in Paris. See what the French eat to keep warm. That and more after the break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
One of the best ways to get into the festive holiday spirit is to take a walk around a Christmas market. Our France correspondent in Paris brings us a taste of the Christmas magic from the largest market in the city.
This is the Paris business district La Défense. Amidst the high concrete towers, little wooden chalets host the largest Christmas market in the region.
The market brings together 350 exhibitors selling all kinds of goods, some of which are traditional handcrafts, some trendy and quite peculiar.
Wandering through the alleys, searching for the perfect Christmas gift can take some time. One way that people here fight off feeling cold is by eating foods high in fat. This looks good, doesn't it? Cheese, warm wine, but also pastry are the best Christmas market food. This is Queen Amande, a type of Breton cake. It was created a century ago by a baker from Brittany.
The baker had nothing but bread dough, butter and sugar, and he had the idea to imprison the butter and sugar inside the dough. I heard you can find it in New York. It's very unique.
According to a 2014 New York Times story, this cake is described as the fattiest pastry in all of Europe. A feature of the market is this exhibition, 1,500 santons. These small hand-painted terracotta figurines form a nativity scene. They stand next to miniature pine trees. These santons are a traditional sight to see over Christmas. Looking around the market is great if you're struggling for gift ideas. Those nutcracker toys are a bestseller so far. Maybe it's because of the movie. You can even find items to join in with newer Christmas trends. You know Rudolph, don't you? His nose has a big pom-pom. It's because he's the leader of Santa's reindeer. In recent years, people compete with each other to find the ugliest Christmas sweater. This is the most kitsch and funny of our sweaters, the little penguin that has borrowed Rudolph's hat and nose. But where does this ugliest sweater competition come from? For that, you have to ask the British. The market is also a great place to find decorations.
So here we personalize balls and any Christmas decorations.
Last year, La Défense Market drew 1 million visitors, including workers, Paris residents, and tourists. The traditional handcrafted goods pull in visitors looking for Christmas gifts that they don't see anywhere else. Unlike online shopping, the Christmas market brings a full festive experience to finding that very special gift.
Up next, 3 movies opened this weekend, and Jumanji: The Next Level came out on top. Find out which hit fell second when we return.
Every once in a while, something comes along, so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. So beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
Three new movies opened in wide release this weekend, but only one was able to challenge the reigning box office champion.
Black Christmas opened in 5th place with a weaker than expected $4.4 million. In 4th, director Clint Eastwood's Richard Jewell also debuted well below estimates, $5 million. Knives Out made $9.3 million for 3rd place and a domestic total of $79 million.
Christoph, can I borrow your wagon? And Sven?
I'm not very comfortable with the idea of that.
After 3 weekends on top, Frozen 2 fell to 2nd, but $19.2 million gave the animated sequel $367 million domestic.
Listen up now. This is a dangerous place. You got to have eyes in the back of your head.
What in the Sam Hill just happened to him?
It was game over for the competition as Jumanji: The Next Level debuted with a better than expected $60.1 million to take the weekend title.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us again tonight. I'm Holly Kellum.